morning. It's a rainy one today. Haven't had too much rain in a while, so this is good. We're in Libra season now, and this is basically we're just about done, right? It's harvest time starts in the Virgo season. And then it goes on and on for a while. But most of the really good stuff you're looking for you're collecting a little bit later. I'm getting pretty close to harvest time for me. I already harvested my tomatoes. My tomatoes have been done for like a month, right? So like tomato season kind of like ended with the entering into Virgo. Probably I think a month ago was the last time I got a yield out of the plant before it died. And then I've got 5 of my 6 plants for cannabis. The 6th plant was a boy, so I had to terminate it because, cannabis growing 101 is that if you want big flowers, the ladies have to have blue balls their entire lives. So the ladies are blooming, looking for spores. And that's what you're looking for, is a bitch in heat. And that's what cannabis is when you smoke it. A bitch in heat. Theoretically a virgin. You are burning a virgin and smoking her. When you smoke a abundantly flowered thing, right? There's probably a direct correlation towards women who have the gift of being the seer, and virginity to the flower of cannabis. Putting you in a lucid state. So anyway, you guys heard my report about the massage, and so last night, significant improvement. Not perfect. I did end up having a lot more tossing and turning than I thought, but I was very comfortable for a long time on my back and very comfortable for a long time on my side. But it did eventually act up, and I had to roll on my stomach. Now, my muscles may still be recovering. Why is this light so fucking long? Is it going to change or not? I'm gonna make... Oh, wait, no, it is gonna change. There we go. Sometimes you never know when when you're sitting at a light and the light just doesn't change, and then you're just like I hate that moment, because that's the moment where it's just like, do I put natural law to the test, run a red light, and deal with an asshole in uniform, right? Because you just never know how it's going to look to a cop, and then you got to bother with all the process and procedure of it, and it's just like, shit, man, I got to waste 5 minutes because this light, and then this cop, I have to waste the 5 minutes because that's an absurd amount of time for it to be red, and there's like no traffic. Right? So I wasn't sure there. But, yeah, no, so I'm really glad I got it done. I'm probably going to go to a chiropractor next, because I was having a conversation after the session with my friend who thinks I probably should have just gone to the chiropractor first. I'm sure that if she had said it before I went, I may have actually said you're right, right? Because I did some fishing. I was originally going to say a chiropractor. I decided against it because I said a chiropractor may be too extreme for the next thing I got to do, right? And I find it interesting. She told me the story. Like, I didn't know that doctors had a beef with chiropractors. That's, it's just, goddamn. Doctors are just condemned to unconsciously hate you for taking care of yourself. Terrible. Fucking terrible, right? I had a similar reaction to certain rejections of treatment, and it's just like, buddy, you can't listen to my body. I can listen to my body. Get the fuck off of me. All right? It's bad enough that I can't get what I want from you, so don't give me what I don't want. I don't want surgery. I don't want injections. I don't want this. I don't want that. My kidney stone, I had to have surgery, but it was theoretically non-invasive because, I mean, it's theoretically the most invasive, but, they didn't have to cut me open. They went in through one of the tubes that God put there. But anyway, y'all know what I'm talking about. Especially if you've ever had to deal with an old school kidney stone, you know what the fuck I'm talking about, men. Anyway. So, I wanted to say hello if you are checking me out for the first time because you heard me call in to Quite Frankly last night. I appreciate that, because who the hell am I and who's this fucking pagan guy talking to the Catholics? The audacity of you. No. No, Frank is fucking awesome. Thus said neighbor. And so I needed to go live today to say hello in case I had any new friends. Right? My distinction is that, not too many of you guys would be very excited about me. I certainly don't put on a show like Frank, right? I'm for thinking people. Right? I'm a bit braggadocious. I use big words. I do most of my solo work topless because it's just something of it's a crazy comfort factor I need. It's a comfort factor I need. It's just like I can truly be myself if I feel comfortable in my own skin, right? But if you look at my shows that I do with people, unless that's my buddy, unless it's a buddy of mine who's kind of like, we've had jokes about it, and they kind of like, they like to take their shirt off once in a while. It's like, this is, it's like, do you have to be fucking pagan to be a little bit more feral if you're Christian or Catholic who's tuning in? Something I explained to Frank email, because I Reich, and I've always been, and because I've just spent so much time being one of those guys dissecting the Bible and making it stand up to history, and I mean occult esoteric history, right? It's like I still have a lot of mythical aspects to my view of the ancient past, which is kind of the ancient future, if you understand a few weird things about time and memory and things of this nature. Hey, what's up, Thelonious? That there's still plenty of room for magical thinking, right? But also not literal thinking, right? And I've made a big deal of things like the Bach Saga, and even the Bach Saga I don't truly take literally, but it's so amazing of a story that answers so many questions, especially about language. And gives us an idea of what we think this bloodline situation is. That it's invaluable information, the Bach Saga. It's, it squares the circle of the issue of why Christians are confused about paganism, right? Because of the many things done, right? A lot of Christians get enticed by Catholicism because it brings back the magic that was stolen from paganism as well, but it also involves the magic from cults, like the cult of Dionysus. Because this was the Catholic, the universal church. It got that fucking title because it was just appropriating everything, right? And Jesus and the sacrifice on the Roman cross became very important to the whole thing. It came, for all sorts of reasons, and the way I see it as a pagan is that's a weaponized shaming apparatus to shame the world, to make them feel a little bit guilty that they would do capital punishment for a man, preaching about, maybe we should do good things, so on and so forth, right? And so that kind of becomes this universal symbolism of we don't do this anymore. We don't persecute someone who says we should be good people, right? Pagans don't use terms like that, but I think we fucking agree. We're just good by different definitions. I was explaining to Frank on the show, there are different kinds of pagans. Pagans that are conservative, pagans that are liberal. And they can fight amongst themselves, right? And then I've explained, not to Frank at that moment, but like there's many churches, and the churches have their disagreements, right? So please forgive me, because I do have my own standards of forgiveness that I've found through deep soul searching. But it's not Christian forgiveness. It works a little bit different. But please forgive me for prior blasphemies under the understandings of certain things, because I am talking about us as Americans, us as freedom lovers, us as good and decent people, us, men of good character has become one of my favorite sayings to sum it up better, right? Because the good in the, being a good, to be a good man. But I think we forget that the word good is a loaded word, because the debate of morality is shaped around what is a good person, or how much a good person is the real, merit value. And we've seen some of the atrocious types of persons of character, people of terrible character, living in accordance with those values. And this is why I'm looking at Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals as the new book that I am reading. I am taking a little bit of time to read this one. It's, 200-page book or so. Should go rather quick if I do one chapter per session. As often as I've got the presence for it. And once I'm done with that, I'm not sure what I'll be doing on the internet next. But, I'm also catching up on some hard books, some physical books that I'm not going to sit there and read in front of you. Because I just read Frank Herbert's Dune. So I want to get through the next 2 books in the Dune series that I already own. And then from there, it all depends. Various collaborations, interviews, the rare occasion that I'm actually inspired to cut a video together. But anyway, I've explained this a number of times, so, I try not to make my drive streams some sort of filler, although there will be a little bit of filler because it's a stream of consciousness situation. It's a flow state situation. It's a weave, as many would say. Yeah, so if you tune into the Quite Frankly show for my friends over here, I was, I think about the last 15 minutes or so of the show. I called in. I was like the last call in, and I used the subject matter of, they were talking about Trump and being cursed, and they can't curse him, right? All the witches. And I was staying focused on subject, for my time on with Frank. But I'm going to email Frank, and I'm going to email him Thomas Sheridan's work and Corey Daniels and Alicia's work at the Phoenix Enigma. I'm going to hook, I want to try and hook him up with them, because I'd love for Thomas to talk about how that shit with the magic works, because, I got a lot of my core foundational explanation from him and then put it in my own words. And then as well as the fact that Thomas is also a pagan, and he likes folk Catholicism, and he understands a lot of the history of Catholicism in Europe, because he studied the occultism of both pagan Europe and Christian Europe, and he has a deep understanding of the difference. And then Corey is you guys know Corey. My recent guest appearance with him is here on the is saved here on the channel, and he's a Christian of good character, ally, pagan like myself. Has a lot of Christians in his audience. And he puts on a great show. So if you don't like me and you're about to call it quits on me, that's fair. Because you know what? I'm friends with Thomas. Thomas came on my show. About 50 people popped on, and then 50 people disappeared right away. Right? Because I'm very different. I'm a pagan, but I'm not a traditional pagan. I consider myself a happy balance between the eclectic and the originalist pagan. Because I think if you're an originalist pagan, you're you're denying the rest of the world that both Odin and Tyr want you to know, and to know it because of the kindred souls among men. Right? And there's never been that problem when it came to likening Odin to Mercury and Hermes. And there's also absolutely no problem with how he's likened to Shiva. Right? And so this is a part of it. You know? It's always great when you've got, Christians that go and they look at indigenous cultures and, the way people were in the old world, and appreciating how they could see that they didn't need Christianity to have Christian values. That was the thing with the Native Americans. The Native Americans that we cherish today that are sober are just as much men of good character as any Christian walking down the street. Right? The Christian can poo-poo paganism, but they often are also cheering for Native Americans who live by values that are sympathetic to Christian values, and thus there's nothing ill there, right? And so that's kind of what's funny about it. This is why it seems like all religions are the same. The only religions that are actually the same are the Abrahamic religions. All the other ones are different, but the people are the fucking same. They're looking for good because they want to be good, or they're bad people who need to feel better about the fact that they won't stop being bad. And that's all of the religions, all of the people. As a pagan, I just accept that I'm a flawed man, but I also do not accept that I have to be a flawed man. Do you understand? And I don't need fucking forgiveness because I've committed no true transgression against others, and I've already forgiven myself for the harm I've done to myself because I stopped doing that harm to myself. I already asked forgiveness not from God, but from persons that I may have wronged. And usually that forgiveness comes in the form of, fuck, I broke your thing, man, I'm sorry. I lost your shit. Like, you want me to pay for it? Dude, I'm fucking sorry, man. Like, I'm not saying sorry because I don't want to fucking pay for it. Let me pay for it. Yeah, principles of forgiveness. Right? But I've never killed anybody. I've never stolen from any person. I stole from a business once. Out of spite, because I was having a real hard time with everything. And so that I'm sorry for. That was a dishonorable thing, right? That was a shameful mark on me that made very little difference. And I didn't take these items so I could sell them. I literally took them because I wanted them. And I thought it was an insult that I couldn't afford some reasonably priced stuff there. And I was saving as well as I could. I didn't have anything else I felt like spending money on. and I was being treated poorly, and yada, 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 all that kind of crap. Right? And that makes me no better at that time in my life than the people that I'm criticizing now. Right? The people that are going out and making these lootings and whatever. So when I say it, I'm saying it from, like, well, granted, it's so overt and gross and forethoughted like that. Like, brazenly, like, I'm a thief that ought to be like, me. It's covert. It was covert, and it was by myself, and that's all really mattered. It wasn't part of a movement of making life communist, right? All this looting is about trying to wreck the economy, right? Which is what it is going to do as long as it's allowed to work. And that's why you got like all these black neighborhoods, all the grocery stores are closed because they were robbing all the grocery stores so much that they ran, the corporations ran out of operating costs, right? There used to be a few experiments with these like stores that some people made, and they, I forget if it was food or clothing or whatever, but it's just like it was a pay what you like system. So you could buy something. They would let you buy something that was worth a lot for like $1 if that's all you had, right? And they had a theory that the way people are, and if you cut the extra costs of being that business, you will turn a profit, or at least be able to keep running and be of service, right? It's fine in a capitalist society to become wealthy off of a fair cut. And because you're the business, you're also going to have the aggregate effect is going to be in play. So that makes you ultra wealthy. And that's supposed to be in our capitalist system great, because you didn't fuck anybody over in the process. That's an aspect of the system, right? It's like every little contract deal you made was a win-win for everybody. So anyway, that's completely far afield, and it's time for me to get to work. So thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys later.